This is one of the deer that I've talked about the most, T-Rex. T-Rex was 221. We knew about him the year before. I figured he was in the 180s the year before.
The 11th commandment is more than a name. It's a creed. Built on decades of chasing big game across the world, giant whitetails, faith, family, and a passion for passing on the hunting legacy. Every hunt and every story is designed to educate, inspire, and entertain. This is more than hunting. This is the 11th commandment.
So now we'll step into my biggest obsession, which is big whitetails, which is what I grew up hunting and still love the most. I mean, we all know that whitetails is the #1 desired big game trophy in the world. And it's always been my favorite ever since I was a little kid. And so it's kind of, I don't know, spent too much time and money chasing them, but it's been a blast.
Let's check them out.
So I know everybody's heard, this is one of the deer that I've talked about the most, T-Rex. T-Rex was 221. We knew about him the year before. I figured he was in the 180s the year before, and then this a year later he blows up into this with the drops, and just one of the best hunts of my life. If I ever thought that I truly outsmarted a particular deer that was getting away with some pretty crazy antics, avoiding hunters, and so we were able to pull this off. I think we've done a story or two on him on the 11th commandment, but one of my favorite bucks of all time. This is another buck we did a story on, 11th commandment, Beanfield buck in Illinois, just a big frame, typical, over 200. And it's another one of those deals where, you know, I actually killed this deer the first day I hunted him, so it was epic hunt. Just, you know, some other really good deer I've killed in some other states that were just, I killed several years ago, but actually before I was doing TV. These are two of my favorite deer that I've killed. This is another Illinois buck, and we haven't done a story or anything on him yet. It was pretty unique. Found this buck also. Early season, he was in a bean field and then transitioned over into a cornfield about a half a mile away, and we just stayed after him till finally got an opportunity. But just another great, mostly typical buck over 200. This is probably one of, if not the biggest frame deer I've ever killed. First time I ever saw a picture of this deer, I thought he looked like a mule deer, you know. And he does have a fork on the one side, but shot him with a bow several years back, and I thought this deer was probably 190-ish, and then when I walked up on him, I was like, I think he's going to be over 200. And I mean, really, he's a basic 4x5, and then he just had the fork G2 on one side. But to you know, go over 200 with only just being basically a 4x6 is pretty amazing. Some more of my, you know, favorite deer over 200. What I try to do, I try to get replicas of all my 200s, just in fear that something someday may happen, a fire. Actually, we had a fire last year and I lost some racks, but no, I didn't lose any of my big ones. And I just like to keep the forms and the replicas, and if I do a show or anything, I usually take the replicas to the show. And this was a really cool deer from out west, and he was, you know, I think this is the only double bean buck that I've ever killed. It's just a cool deer, lots of character. He was kind of a warrior, old deer. I think that deer was 7.5. And just a cool old buck. We set up on that. We actually killed that deer out of a ground blind, and was just a really fun hunt. This hunt was probably one of the prettiest hunts that we ever filmed. This deer was in Kansas. We killed him out of a ground blind. He came out of a cornfield. The sun was still up. He was chasing does, came into a clover field from the corn, and he was actually, I think, 198. This deer was actually only 4.5 years old, but it was on a piece of property that I was never going to get to hunt again. We knew the deer was there, and so, you know, it would have been amazing to see him in another year. I think that deer would have blown up into like 220 plus, but we're fortunate to get him, and we made a great hunt out of that great show out of that deer. This deer right here was from Iowa, just a cool old super heavy deer. The mass in his frame, he's kind of got a small frame, but those brows and that mass just make him, you know, a really special deer. And we had a good time. That was kind of a late season deer, and it was a fun hunt. That was one of those deer we had a cornfield that we left for late season, and it just paid off. It was just like a magnet. This is, of course, my favorite hunt of all time. This is the Kansas buck from '07. I replaced the drop tine that was broke on the deer when I killed him. You can see there's the magazine article from North American Whitetail of him, and then here's the Monster Buck 16 DVD cover, and all that. It was all awesome. There's been some controversy about that deer through the years. We won't get into all that, but I'm just as proud as this deer today as I was the day I killed him. It always will be the most epic hunt of my life, and I don't think I'll ever be able to generate that kind of adrenaline and excitement again, and it was incredible.
He's a stud.
Yeah, it was priceless. To shoot a deer like this off the ground at 6 yards and then have him fall on film, and just the way it spot and stalk and the way it all happened was just... Thor, we did a story on him on the podcast here a few weeks ago. It was a fun deer. It was a deer that I'd passed up the year before, and then he, you know, put on several inches the following year. And just one of those classic deer that worked out good, hunting him on some acorns, 2 big oak trees that were dropping acorns back in the sanctuary on the farm that I was hunting. And so it was just a lot of fun being up in a stand in a tree. This wasn't a ground blind hunt, and just seeing him come through the woods and get up there to, you know, 18 or 20 yards. I shot this deer in the shoulder, which bothered me a little bit. I didn't quite get the pin back behind it, but he didn't go far, probably 100, 150 yards, and
he's so much more impressive in person.
I appreciate it. Yeah,
the podcast, he's nice but gorgeous, but this is...
Well, when you see he's got an open frame, you know, and so from the front he just looks good, and from the trail camera pictures I knew he was going to look good from the front. And I love the shape of that deer and the look. It's just really cool.